Hey everyone, I'm back with another video, and this is going to be of a mini Schnauzer. He's one of my favorite guys. He's just so sweet. So we start every session with just cuddling for a minute because he really doesn't love grooming, but he does love spending time with me and the attention. So anyways, I always give him some snuggles first, and this is what we're working with. So I'm going to put time stamps in the description, so if you want to skip over the bathing part and you want to get right to the grooming part so you can see the patterns for how I do Schnauzers, go ahead and look in the description and I will try and put those timestamps in there. But I know some of you love to see the whole process, so I did want to include everything. So I start the grooming session almost always with a bath. Once in a while we do something else first, but anyways, for this guy we start with a bath because we have to get him nice and clean so that his hair is freshly prepped and ready to be cut. I almost forgot, but I put cotton balls in the dog's ears for their bath, and that's just to make sure that no water gets inside them. If water does get inside them, a lot of times dogs can shake it out and everything's okay, but it can cause, of course, irritation, ear infection, that sort of thing. So I try and put cotton balls inside all the dog's ears to prevent that from happening. And then it also allows me to just be able to soap up and clean their ears really well and not have to worry about getting water in them. So I put cotton balls in there for the bath, take them out as soon as we are done. I want to note that I do speed these videos up to 1.5 times speed, so it looks like I'm kind of going crazy and moving fast and being rough, but it's just because the video is sped up. So anyways, here's that shampoo, the Tropiclean Oxymed Hypoallergenic, fragrance-free, dye-free, like I said, super gentle. His particular owners have some sensitivities to smells, so they requested totally odorless shampoo, and so this is what I use, but I really actually think it still does a great job cleaning, even though it's super gentle. So, and then also I feel super safe using it, you know, on the dog as well, especially around their face and eyes and that sort of thing. So I know a lot of you on my other videos get so upset that I soap around the dog's face and eyes and that sort of thing, but it might look like I'm getting soap in the dog's eyes, but I'm not. It's not going in their eyes. It's going all around their eyes, but it doesn't go in their eyes. And it's super important, especially for a Schnauzer, to get the face clean, because a Schnauzer, so much of the groom is all about their facial expression, and their long beard is such a characteristic of the breed, and it gets crusty, so it needs to be cleaned, and that requires soap and water. So if you watch closely as I'm doing the face, I make sure that I only spray gently. I don't spray it directly in their eyes. I never spray it in their nose. I don't spray it in their mouth, but I do have to get in there and I do have to clean it. And you can see the dog doesn't mind, so everything is okay. So I know I'm going to get a lot of comments about soap in the face, but I'm going to ignore them. So anyways, I'm going to speed up the video to 2 times speed so you can watch Mr. Enzo, which is this guy's name, get a bath, and I hope you enjoy. I will come back when we go to the next part. So I wanted to show you how I rinse the face since I was talking about washing the face and soap in the eyes. You can see I always bring the water starting kind of behind the dog so that it's gentle and introduces it to their face slowly. And then I kind of squeegee the face off as I go so that the dog doesn't have excessive water hanging out around his eyes. And dogs will naturally close their eyes when you're washing their face, just like a baby would do, or, you know, you have to wash their face, and they'll close their eyes while you're doing the water over it so that no soap or water gets in them. And then if you just help them clear the water from their face, most dogs don't mind. It's very few and far between that a dog really doesn't like their face done. And in that case, we'll either turn the water down really gently, take it slow, or do like a sponge bath, towel bath with their face, but generally dogs allow it. So anyways, I wanted to kind of step by step show you how I actually do rinse their face to make sure that they stay safe and all the soap gets off. You ready? Are you ready to get toweled off? So after the towel dry, it's on to the high velocity blow dryer. Most dogs don't really appreciate the blow dryer too much, so we put a happy hoodie on them, which is that white band around their ears. It does two things. It helps dry the ears faster and protects them from the loud noise. It makes them feel kind of secure. So it's super important to dry the dogs properly. It makes your grooming quality better, and also it's healthy for their skin and coat. But I kind of skipped over that because there's not much to see. It's just 15 minutes of me drying him. So after he's all clean and dry, the next step is to start brushing him out. So here I'm starting the brush out with the Le Pouche Pro brush, and I really could not recommend this brand anymore. Their brushes are amazing for a nice finishing brush, but also to get out knots and tangles. The design of the flexible head and the shape of the pins, it is just magic. I don't know, there's actually science behind it. You can look it up on their website, but their brushes are all amazing, and they're actually very gentle too. So dogs don't typically like getting brushed out. It's just one of those things where, just like kids don't like their hair brushed, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. But the Le Pouche brushes do make it super gentle for the dogs because the heads of the brushes are flexible, and they do such a good job with such little effort that it also reduces the time of brushing, which is helpful too. So I use my Le Pouche Pro brush on the entire dog, but for him, of course, the top of his body doesn't have a lot of hair. So I'm focusing mainly on brushing out all of his furnishings, his legs, his skirt, his beard, that sort of thing. And then once I am done using the Le Pouche brush, I go in with a fine tooth comb. And the comb, you can see, kind of gets those knots and tangles that are stuck closer to the skin or kind of in the curvatures of the dog that the slicker brush might gloss over. So it's super important to not only brush but also follow up with a comb. So that allows you to actually make sure you're getting all of the knots and tangles out. And after I brushed him out, I make sure to give him little love breaks, tell him he's being a good boy, and make sure he stays as calm and happy as he can throughout the grooming process. So once I have him all clean and dry and brushed out, the next thing I do is his nails, and I start with trimming all of them with just small dog nail clippers, and then I'll go through and Dremel them all as well. Nails are one of those things that to me are an essential part of grooming, so I make sure to get them as short and round as possible and smooth so that they don't scratch their owners or scratch your floors at home, that kind of thing. So I take my time and make sure that their nails are perfect. Most importantly, though, getting your dog's nails trimmed regularly and trimming them as short as possible is for the health and safety of the pet. So long nails can cause your dog's foot to splay out and their toes to splay, which of course can lead to a whole host of other health and safety issues and general discomfort for your pet. Once their nails are done, I take my Wall Creativa, which I hate saying that word because I don't think I say it right. But anyways, it's a little 5-in-1 clipper, and it has 5 different settings on it. I actually generally use the shortest or the second to shortest setting for paw pads. It's a really short blade. It's almost basically surgical length. And so it's not appropriate for every dog, but I find that for small dogs or dogs that have very thick hair around their feet, that the second or shortest blade options on the 5-in-1 clipper do the best job to get the paw pads as clean as I want them. So I'm using my Creativa here to get in between all of the paw pads, get out all of that toe hair, and make a nice, clean, and tidy paw pad. You do want to be careful that you're not using the blade to dig between the paw pads, so it kind of looks like I am doing that here, but I'm really not. I'm more keeping the blade flush with the paw pads themselves and just taking out any of the hair that grows around or on top of them. So now I'm going to start using my Andis Pulse ZR clippers with a detachable 10 blade, and I'm going to do the sanitary trimming, which would be the inner thighs, around the butt, the armpits, those sort of areas, making sure that I am very careful because you don't want to clipper burn these areas. It's very easy to not only clipper burn them but also cut the skin, because the skin kind of folds and can be tucked up or hidden. Also, when you are doing the armpits, of course, if the dog jerks around, it's very easy to cut them. So definitely go very slow and only do what you're comfortable with. You know, I've been grooming my entire life and feel as though I can do all of this with a well-behaved dog pretty easily, but it's not as easy as it looks. So definitely go slow and be mindful. Also, the areas that you're clipping, you know, the sanitary trimming, they are super sensitive. So you want to make sure that you have a clean blade. You're actually not really touching it to the skin surface itself. You're more gliding it over the surface, and just be slow and steady. And then you can see, clean your blade regularly, especially before and after the sanitary trimming. You want to brush out all of the hair and then use some type of disinfectant or there's the Andis Cool Care. I think it's Andis brand, hopefully. Anyways, I brush the hair out, spray it with the disinfectant, the Cool Care, and then kind of brush that through again. So I'm using that same blade after I clean it to actually start the Schnauzer pattern on this particular dog. So he gets a number 10 blade for his Schnauzer pattern, and then you'll see how I do the skirt later. But I start by taking that 10 blade right behind where his eyebrows are. So that 10 blade goes down the forehead here, right starting behind the eyebrows, and then you also take it straight down the ears as well. And the ears are another spot where you need to be so careful. The folds of the ears are so easily cut. When I first started grooming professionally several years ago, I actually did cut a Schnauzer's ears with, I think I was using a 7 blade. So that has wider teeth and it's easier to catch the leather, the ear leather in the teeth. So I would recommend never using a 7 around the ears, because the ear leather can slip in between the teeth of the clipper blade and cut it. I made that mistake, so you don't have to. So a 10 blade is much safer, but you definitely can still cut the ear with it, so you want to be so slow and steady. Hold the ear flap flat while clipping. Kind of same principle on the neck here. If your dog has loose skin around their neck, you want to make sure you're pulling it very tight, because it definitely can get folded and stuck in your clipper blades. So I've sped this video up so it looks like I'm going super fast, but I actually am going slow and steady. The other thing too is I grew groom this dog every 5 weeks, so we have an extremely good relationship and a trust. So I kind of know exactly what he is like. He knows exactly what to expect from me, so we can move pretty fast because we trust each other. And of course, also, I do this all day, every day, so I am a professional. If you're doing this at home, you definitely want to be slow and steady. So here I am, I'm still using that number 10 blade everywhere starting behind the eyebrows, going inside and outside of the ear. Now you don't want to go down the sides of the ears. Again, you want to keep the ear flat. So once I get the neck done, I then make sure I spray my blade again to keep it cool, because when you're using the same blade a lot, it can heat up pretty fast. But I'm switching here to a 30 blade, which that is even shorter than the 10, and I'm using my 30 blade for the insides of his ears. Again, holding the ear flap very flat, being extremely cautious and careful. And I use the 30 blade on the inside of the ears because it just makes it so much cleaner. It gets the hair really short and tidy. So then I switch back to my 10 blade, and I'm going to use my 10 blade for the entire Schnauzer pattern on his body. So it's important to put his head up kind of straight forward for a couple reasons. You want to make sure that your pattern lines are appropriate, so the dog has to be standing appropriately. And then also you want to keep the skin taut while clipping for a couple reasons. It's a better finish, but also safe for them, so that again the wrinkles don't get caught in your blades. And here I am going to do the Schnauzer pattern. So everybody does their Schnauzer patterns slightly differently. This is a little bit of a modified clip. Of course, a real show Schnauzer you wouldn't be doing this with, but this is how I do my particular pet clips and Schnauzers. And actually, I just want to note real quick, the pattern line on this side of the dog, his skirt, I ended up kind of fixing it up later in this video. It's a little high here in this clip, and when I got to the end, when I was doing some more of my finishing work, it'll be shown later in the video, I end up bringing that skirt line down a little bit further. You can always pull it down further. You can't put hair back on, so if you're first starting out, I would recommend maybe going a little bit higher than you think you might need to. And then when you're, doing your finishing work, if you think it's too high, you can bring it down a little bit. But if you bring it down too low in the beginning, you can't put hair back on. So anyways, just wanted to note that I ended up not loving my skirt line on this side of the dog, and I did fix it later. So you'll see that towards the end of the video. So now I'm still using that 10 blade. I probably sprayed it with Cool Care and cleaned it between these clips, because keep in mind, if you're using the same blade, it will heat up. So now I'm using that 10 blade and really clearing out those inner thighs. So a Schnauzer should be pretty much bare on the inside of the thighs, and then they should have nice feathers on their, lower legs from their hocks down. So I use my 10 blade to clear out in between their thighs and go super short on their butt and their tail, and you're just clearing out all of the hair down to the hock. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side of the dog, still using my 10 blade, of course, and just setting the pattern lines over here. Good boy. So I'm taking my 10 blades starting at the neck, and I'm going to use the dog's body as my guide. So you want to go long straight strokes of your clipper blade, and I start in the front and generally work my way to the back of the body. You're going to go using the shoulder blade. You're going to kind of edge around the shoulder blade down to the elbow. And then for the skirt, you can see I'm using the dog's body as my guide. So where the rib cage naturally kind of falls off flat from the body, so from the rib cage, if you were to draw a line straight down to the table, I take my blade and I basically just run it straight down off the dog's body, and wherever that ends kind of is where my skirt ends up being. You don't want to take your blade and run it underneath the dog at all. That would take your skirt much too low. I also see a lot of people leave their skirt patterns higher, which I don't prefer. I kind of use that rib cage to naturally taper off the dog. So now that I've set the pattern lines, I'm going to go in with my slicker brushes to start working on his feathers. So I'm going to use two different slicker brushes. One is a longer pin, Chris Christensen black slicker brush. One is a shorter pin, just soft slicker brush, any cheap brand will do. The scissors I'll be using later in the video are a pair of straight scissors, a pair of thinning scissors, and a pair of curved scissors. These ones are all Shark Fin brand, which is by far my favorite. They're amazing. So the next step, I'm going to use a pair of clippers with a 30 blade detachable blade on, and this is actually a wide blade, but you don't have to use wide, it's just what I prefer. And then I have a 1-inch comb attached with a 30 blade underneath it, like I said. So you're going to use your long pin slicker brush, and you're going to brush up with that, or it's called back brushing. So you're going to fluff it all up. And then you're going to take your clippers with your comb attachment on, whatever length you choose. Again, I'm doing a 1-inch comb here. And you're going to run it down the leg. You're going to have to do it several times because the point is to make it all even. And you can see this guy doesn't really like his legs being clipped. And honestly, a lot of dogs don't. It's just not something they're super comfortable with. So I just try and get it done quickly and get it over with. It helps make everything one length. So again, this is 1 inch, but you can do shorter or longer. And I still will go back in and use my scissors to make everything look perfect. But the clippers just allow you to set a nice base length, and then you can use your scissors to make everything look perfect. So I like to do these in sections. I kind of break it down to individual legs. I back brush the area first and then run my clippers down them. For the skirt, you're not going to really back brush. You could, I guess. I personally choose not to. If you back brushed, it would leave some more clipper marks and it would take it shorter. So back brushing definitely takes the hair shorter. And for the skirt, that's just not really necessary because you want the skirt to come off the dog very naturally. So if you're looking at the dog from the front or the back, the skirt actually in Schnauzers shouldn't be visible. And so I just use the clippers kind of more straight down for the skirt. I do run my clippers lengthwise underneath the dog and backwards a little bit right in front of the sanitary areas just to make things as even and clean as possible down there. And you can see I'm doing that on the other side now. And then once you have everything back brushed and clipped, it's time to go in with your scissors. So I start with straight scissors, and here I'm using just my soft pin small slicker brush to help fluff the area up. And I start with my straight scissors underneath the paw pads just to get any hairs I might have missed when I was clipping the paw pads. And then I'm going to use my straight scissors to make straight up and down lines on the legs because I'm kind of making columns with the legs essentially. So you want them to be straight up and down all around and then kind of come down to a rounded foot. So I first use my straight scissors and then I go in with my thinning scissors or blending shears, and that's just to make the feet look nice and blended, get rid of any scissor marks or clipper marks that there might be. And the thinning scissors allow you just to make a very nice finished look. It gives a much cleaner look in the end. If you were to just use straight scissors, it might look a little bit choppy. My biggest advice is with thinning scissors, you want to move around a lot. If you get stuck in one spot, you might make the area too thin or too short and make a hole in the foot. And so that would of course look bad. So with thinning scissors, the point is to really blend the areas together. So you want to be combing, brushing, moving around a lot. You kind of want the hair to look super natural and very blended. So you don't want to get stuck heavily thinning one area. I then take my thinning scissors and I do the same blending methods, kind of from the chest into the elbow, down the leg. You want to make sure you're checking the inside of the elbow like I am here, because the inside sometimes is hard to see when you're holding the leg up. And then you want to blend kind of the top of the paw pad there and just check for areas that are sticking out. Then I'm still using my thinning scissors here, checking my skirt line, and you can definitely use straight scissors to do that too, but I personally just used my thinners here. In this area of the tuck up, I pull it down and use curved scissors because that's a curved line in the tuck up area. You can see here how he is really shaping up. And then I'm going to do the same method for the back foot. So I'm starting with my straight scissors, pulling out any hairs between the paw pads that I missed, going in with my slicker brush and edging out the paw to make it nice and clean around the edges. I'm then going to comb everything down, looking for any hairs that I missed. And now I have my curved scissors to give the foot a nice round shape, and I'm going back in, rounding up all of the edges and rounding the top of the foot into the paw pad. And then I'm going to straighten up the back hock area. And again, you want to kind of be pulling the hair out, combing the hair out, looking for any hair that's out of place. If you just constantly brush everything straight and down, you might miss things. So I personally like to kind of fluff it up and look at it from all different angles and brush it and comb it many different directions. That way I can find any hairs that might be sticking out. You want to blend in the hock area and blend in the pattern line a little bit so that it's not super short to a long feather. I like that area to be blended in a little bit more. Here I'm using my thinning scissors just to blend up that foot a bit. And now I'm moving on to the other back leg. If you notice, I really work in a very much like a pattern around the dog. So I start with the front foot and then I do the elbow, the skirt on that side into the back foot, then switching sides I do the other back leg and then work my way forward. I find the method of really working in a pattern around the dog to make sure that every area blends into the next area. So if you were to switch side to side a lot or front to back a lot and kind of work all over the place, your pattern and your blending might also become all over the place. So I kind of like to work my way backwards and forwards around the dog in a method that allows me to blend each area into the next. Okay, so I have all the leg trimming done, and I'm just doing the tuck up area here on this side, again with curved scissors. And here is where I start to realize that my skirt pattern line on this side of the dog is just too high. So my first method of attack to combat that is using my thinning scissors just to blend that skirt a little bit heavier, because again, when you're looking at the dog from the front or the back, you actually don't want the skirt to be visible. So it should very much be in line with the dog, straight down from the dog's rib cage. And I'm just noticing that it just looks a little too high up and it looks a little bit too noticeable. So I'm gonna blend in the body. I'm gonna blend around the chest and the elbows and the skirt line, but you'll see here in a moment that I actually end up going back in with my clippers with a 10 blade on it to actually lower the skirt pattern. So this is a really good visual. How I was saying earlier, I use the top of the dog's elbow as a guide for approximately where I want to start my pattern. And you can see here as I fix the pattern lines, it's much closer to his elbow than it was before. Okay, so now I have all of his pattern work done. I have all of his legs trimmed. So the step I'm doing right now is just a finish final touch body clip. So I start at the top of the dog and work my way to the back of the dog. And again, still with my 10 blade. And basically all I'm doing here is just making sure that everything is perfect, touching up all of my lines, touching up all of the body clipping, again, just to make sure I'm going over every area one final time to make it look perfect. So I obviously do this on both sides of the dog, but for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to cut out doing it on the other side since you can't even see it anyways, and we can start working on the face. Okay, so the face is so important on any dog, but especially Schnauzers, because they get their classic Schnauzer look from their eyebrows and their long beard and their facial expression because of those things. So it's super important to their breed characteristic, Groom. Now, this guy, of course, is not a show dog. He is just a pet, so he definitely gets a modified haircut. But even though it's modified, I still use the principles of a standard Groom and still do my best to give him that Schnauzer look. So I start by using a comb to brush up the hair that grows in front of his eyes, and then I'm using curved scissors to cut that hair without cutting the eyebrow hair on top. So I'm only cutting the hair in front of the eyes there. And then I'm going to comb everything forward, and I'm going to use straight scissors. And from the outside of the dog's nose to the outside edge of the eye, I'm going to angle my scissors and cut that angle from the outside of the nose to the outside of the eye. And so I'm going to use straight scissors to set that nice angled Schnauzer eyebrow look. Now again, because this particular dog, his owners want his eyebrows very short because they want to be able to see his eyes, I'm going to make them a lot shorter than you usually would, but I'm still going to use that angulation to give him his correct expression. So once I set the angle of the eyebrows, I'm going in with thinning scissors to clear out a lot of the hair in front of the eyes so that his owners can see his eyes like they want. So I then comb everything kind of up, down, forward. I really am looking to see where the hair naturally lays and trying to work with its natural pattern of growth to make things look nice and blended. And you really want to separate those eyebrows. So I am trying to get rid of all of the hair between the eyebrows, in front of the eyebrows, behind the eyebrows, because you really want those eyebrows to stand out. So again, here I am shortening the eyebrows on a traditional, more show standard groom. Of course, you might not do this step, but for pet grooming, I think it is nice. So I used my 10 blade, as you saw, on top of the head, and then this hair of course is long, so that's a really big difference. So you'll see me using my thinning scissors quite a bit to blend those areas together. So I am trying to just make the hair look as naturally blended between those two areas as I can. If you're watching this video to actually learn how to scissor your Schnauzer face, I would say, first of all, I'm not an expert, so there's that, but I have practiced a lot, and I feel like for pet grooming, I have really gotten good at Schnauzer faces, and my best advice would be to really watch the angles at which I hold my scissors, because you can see here I held them up and down to blend the cheeks into the head, and now I'm holding them at an angle, so shorter and tighter towards the back of the jaw, angled down so that the front of the muzzle is longer. And here's another good visual for that. So if you angle the scissors back up towards the ear, then you get a nice sharp angle that's traditional for Schnauzers. So it's still short and it's still a modified pet clip, but you can still get a nice Schnauzer look if you keep the angle of your scissors correct to breed standard. And then underneath, I like to take the area where the beard ends and blends into the body nice and tight and short as much as I can, again to accentuate that long beard, even though this dog has a shorter beard relative to what you would do on a show dog. So it's still long enough that it gives him that really nice Schnauzer look, but short enough that the owners can easily maintain it, and as a pet it doesn't cause him too much mess or get too dirty in between his grooming appointments. So another thing that I do on pet Schnauzers is I pull all of the little tiny baby hairs that grow right underneath the nose, right in the front of the mouth. I pull them out with my fingers because they get tucked up underneath their lips. And with either straight or curved scissors, I just take those little tiny baby hairs off. And same thing with the stuff that grows on top of the nose. Now this would be a really big no-no in show grooming, so don't come at me. I understand you should never take that hair off if you're doing a show Schnauzer, but again, he is just a pet, and this keeps it from his beard looking super crazy and getting really messy. So all those little baby hairs that grow right underneath the nose and on top of the nose, I just take those off, usually with curved scissors. So now I am just going to keep shaping up his muzzle and his beard until I'm happy with it with my blending scissors or my thinning scissors. And this is kind of just to your preference, to the owner's preference. This particular dog, he gets some kind of swirly cowlicky hairs right where I'm scissoring right now. And even though the length of them is correct, sometimes they just look super wonky. And one thing is that the better you wash and dry this hair, so if you dry it really, really straight with a hot dryer, it will look as best as it can. If you let this dog more air dry or kennel dry, the beard is going to look crazy. So I usually try and get the dog to look at me so I can kind of see the small little touch-up areas that I need to work on. He loves treats, so I give him a little treat break. And then next step, I have a little bit more I want to do on the beard, but I'm just going to take a break on that for now. And the next step I do is edge the ears. So you obviously need to be super, super careful doing this. You know, I have done this a million times, so I can go fairly fast and feel confident, but definitely go so slow when you are doing this. This is not something I would do if you are a beginner or if your dog is not well behaved. So I use my slicker brush to brush the inside and the outside of the dog's ear, kind of with the pattern of growth. So I'm just brushing it straight out, and then I use my hands to really hold the ear at the tip of the leather so that I know where the leather ends exactly. So there's no chance of me cutting the dog's ear because I'm holding it like I would cut my fingers before I cut the dog's ear, basically. And I use straight scissors to edge it, really get that tip of the ear nice and tight. The bottom edge of the ear you want to make sure is nice and tight. And again, this is so dangerous, so if you're going to attempt that, please be extra careful. So now I'm just looking to do final touches on the beard, making sure all of my lines are clean and crisp and everything is looking the way I want it to. And I think he is looking so cute, very Schnauzer. And he has a great face, and I really enjoy grooming him because he always turns out so nice. And you can see, even though he does have short eyebrows, much shorter than a traditional style, it still is very noticeable, and it really does still bring out that Schnauzer expression in him, even though they are short. So now he is all finished, and I'm just going to give him some love and give him a bandana and get him ready to go home. And I also do think I ended up touching up his beard a little bit more after this clip because it still just looked a little poofy. But generally, he is all done and ready to go, and he's just the sweetest, most perfect guy. I really enjoy grooming him. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment if you have any questions for me, and let me know what breed of dogs you'd like me to do next.